All right. Hello, dear eighth graders. I hope that you are doing well. If you have chosen to review Act 1 with me, that is what I'm doing here. And I'm going to see if I can get through the whole act in under 15 minutes. So we'll dive right in. You will notice that on the screen I have a page set up for notes, and we will add to those as we need to. Okay, so I'm going to start with the prologue. I am on page 7 if you are following along, and you should be following along with me. Enter chorus. Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention, a kingdom for a stage, princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. Then should the warlike Harry, like himself, assume the port of Mars, warlike, and at his heels, leashed in like hounds, should famine, sword, and fire crouch for employment. But pardon, gentles all, the flat unraised spirits that hath dared on this unworthy scaffold to bring forth so great an object. Okay, so let's pause for just a second. He's asking for a muse. We've talked about that in the past. Muses help us to do our best work and our inspiration for masterpieces. We are also hilariously asking for a kingdom, an actual kingdom for a stage, instead of this poor unraised, unworthy scaffold here. We're also asking for princes to act. So if we actually had the real kings here to do the acting, how much better it would be, and monarchs to behold. So actually poking fun at the audience. If we had royalty here watching the play and royalty actually acting for the play, how much better this would be. However, we don't have that. So he says, pardon, gentles all. Let's jump ahead. Sorry. Can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France? Obviously not. Or may we cram within this wooden O? Remember, the O is the Globe Theater. It was in a circular shape. The very casques or helmets that did affright the air at Agincourt. We know all about Agincourt. We studied about that with our earlier book. Oh, pardon, with King Alfred. Oh, pardon, since a crooked figure, just one little man, may attest in little place 1,000,000 men, and let us, ciphers, people who keep records, to this great account on your imaginary forces work. So we're working in your imagination now. Suppose, go with me here, within the girdle of these walls are now confined 2 mighty monarchies, whose high upreared and abutting fronts the perilous narrow ocean parts asunder. So that tells us immediately we're talking about the channel, the English Channel. So we are talking about the 2 great monarchies of England and France. Piece out our imperfections with your thoughts. Into 1,000 parts divide one man, and make imaginary puissance. Think, when we talk of horses, that you see them, printing their proud hoofs in the receiving earth. For 'tis your thoughts that now must deck our kings. Carry them here and there, jumping over time, so time and space, and turning the accomplishment of many years into an hourglass. For the which supply admit me the chorus, to this history, who, prologue-like, your humble patience pray, gently to hear, kindly to judge our play. So please be patient and kind in your judgments of our play, and use your imagination. All right, Act 1, page 11. Bishop of Canterbury. My lord, I'll tell you that self-bill is urged, which in the 11th year of the last king's reign was like, and had indeed against us passed, but that the scambling and unquiet time did push it out of farther question. So we're talking about a bill that's been up before, but it got pushed out of possibility by perilous times. Bishop of Ely. But how, my lord, shall we resist it now? It must be thought on. If it pass against us, we lose the better half of our possession. For all the temporal lands which men devout by testament have given to the church, would they strip from us, being valued thus, as much as would maintain to the king's honor full 15 earls and 1,500 knights, 6,200 good esquires, and to relief of lazars, or people who have leprosy, and weak age, of indigent, faint souls, past corporal toil, 100 almshouses right well supplied. So the money that's going to be taken away from the church would be enough to support 15 earls, 1,500 knights, 6,200 esquires, and relieve people who are suffering from leprosy and who are elderly. So weak, and then also the indigent, and the ones who are unable to work. So people who would normally be going and begging. Okay. And then to the coffers, in addition to the coffers of the kings, besides 1,000 pounds by the year. Thus runs the bill. This would drink deep, says the Bishop of Ely. 'Twould drink the cup and all. It's going to take everything. But what prevention? How can we prevent it? The king is full of grace and fair regard, and a true lover of the Holy Church. The courses of his youth promised it not. The breath no sooner left his father's body, but that his wildness, mortified, killed in him, seemed to die too. So he was wild in his youth, but when his father passed, he became very mild or controlled. Yea, at that very moment, consideration like an angel came and whipped the offending Adam, that sinful Adam, out of him, leaving his body as a paradise. I envelop and contain celestial spirits. Never was such a sudden scholar made. Never came reformation in a flood with such a heady currents, scouring faults. Nor never hydra-headed willfulness. His willfulness was so bad that it was like a hydra. So soon did lose his seat, and all at once, as in this king. So he is fully reformed. We are blessed in the change, says Bishop Ely. Hear him but reason and divinity, and all admiring with an inward wish. You would desire the king were made a prelate, or a member of the clergy. Hear him debate of commonwealth affairs, and you would say it hath been all in all his study, so as though he had gone to seminary. List his discourse of war, and you shall hear a fearful battle rendered you in music. Turn him to any cause of policy, and the Gordian knot, remember your Gordian knot, of it he will unloose. Familiar as his garter, that when he speaks, the air a chartered libertine is still, and the mute wonder lurketh in men's ears. To steal his sweet and honeyed sentences, everybody listens when he speaks. So that the art and practice part of life must be the mistress to his theory, which is a wonder how his grace should glean it, since his addiction was to courses vain, his companies unlettered, rude, and shallow, we'll meet some of those later, his hours filled up with riots, banquets, sports, and never noted in him any study, any retirement, any sequestration from open haunts and popularity. So he never seemed to read or study before, and now all of a sudden he's brilliant. The strawberry grows underneath the nettle, and wholesome berries thrive and ripen best, neighbored by fruit of baser quality. And so the prince obscured his contemplation under the veil of wildness, which no doubt grew like the summer grass, fastest by night, unseen, yet crescent in his faculty. So his wisdom was developing below his craziness or his wildness. It must be so, for miracles are ceased, and therefore we must needs admit the means how things are perfected. So he's not a miracle because those days are past us. So it must be that there was something going on under the surface that none of us could see. But my good lord, says the Bishop of Ely, how now for mitigation of this bill urged by the commons? Doth his majesty incline to it or no? So is the king in favor of it? He seems indifferent, or rather swaying more upon our part, so more in our favor, than cherishing the exhibitors against us. For I have made an offer to his majesty upon our spiritual convocation, and in regard of causes now in hand, which I have opened to his grace at large, as touching France, to give a greater sum than ever at one time the clergy yet did to his predecessors part withal. So the church is offering him more money than the church has ever offered a king before. How did this offer seem received, my lord? With good acceptance of his majesty, save that there was not time enough to hear, as I perceived his grace would fain have done, the severals and unhidden passages of his true titles to some certain dukedoms, and generally to the crown and seat of France, derived from Edward his great-grandfather. What was the impediment that broke this off? the French ambassador upon that instant craved audience. And the hour, I think, is come to give him hearing. Is it 4 o'clock? It is. Then go we in to know his embassy, which I could with a ready guess declare, before the Frenchmen speak a word of it. I'll wait upon you, and I long to hear it. So let's take a break here. The prologue, we are going to say that the chorus asks for patience and imagination as he creates the worlds of France and England on the stage. Let me expand this just a little bit so you can see where I'm going. All right. All right. That's probably enough. Oh, can't spell imagination. Let's try that again. All right. So that's probably enough. Let's go ahead and talk about our characters. So we have the Bishop of Canterbury and the Bishop of Ely. And they are discussing a bill that is before Parliament that will take a great deal of money and property from the church, from a capitalized church, because we're talking about the Catholic Church. All right. The Bishop, I'm going to say C because I know who my characters are now. The Bishop of Canterbury is going to offer, or has offered, Henry V a large sum of money and told him that he has a right to lay claim to the French crown. All right. So that he's offered, but he hasn't gotten an answer. All right. We are already up to 12.5 minutes. That took a lot longer than I thought it would. So I'm going to end this session, and then I'm going to read scene 2 with you in the next one. All right. If you are reading along with me, hang in there. We'll get done very shortly.